My name is Ken Klicka. I'm a partner here at Sikich, and I work with our clients that use Microsoft products in the cloud, as well as our managed service customers. Today, I want to give a brief overview on the new commerce experience, or NCE. Our goal isn't to go into a lot of detail, but enough to allow you to start planning and thinking about what you're going to do. We have other resources available that you'll have at your fingertips to be able to help with that decision-making process. But what I want to talk about first is, what is the new commerce experience? Microsoft has had the CSP program for approximately 5 or 6 years now, and this is one of the most significant changes to it. The per seat license model for Microsoft 365, Dynamics 365, and Power Platform was pretty revolutionary when it was first released. And this is the next step in that evolution. So NCE is a new ordering, provisioning, and billing platform for the seat-based licensing. Now, in 2019, Microsoft actually started rolling out NCE for Azure server software, Azure reserved instances, and third-party marketplace offers. So it's not a new program overall for CSP, but it is new for the Microsoft 365, Dynamics 365, and Power Platform licensing. Last year, perpetual software was launched in CSP using this platform. And now this year, we have the rest of the licensing available through NC. It's a significant change to how we've worked with Microsoft in the past, both us as a CSP partner and you as CSP customers. And it requires us to take some key things in mind in terms of our decision-making process. So the NCE per seat offer became available January. Any new subscriptions that are going to be provisioned after March 10th will have to be an NCE. Right now, you're considered in what is called the legacy CSP system. All new licenses that are created, I should say new subscriptions that are created in after March 10th will be on NCE. And then as of July 1st, new subscriptions can only be renewed in NCE. There is a brief period where we have some transition while we're aligning subscriptions and customers over to the new platform. So now we get into the things that you'll need to take into consideration as you're considering these new options. The first is Microsoft is changing some of the pricing around different terms for the licensing. So the legacy CSP program, you had the ability to get pricing month to month and annual at the same price. In the new commerce experience, month to month pricing is a 20% premium over the annual. In addition, and it's not related to NCE, but it's happening at the same time, there are, I believe, 6 licenses in M365 that have a price increase starting in March as well. Cancellation option is another significant change. So previously in the legacy CSP program, we had the ability to make cancellations and prorate those. Microsoft had an annual term. We were able to, because it wasn't enforced, we were able to cancel licenses prorated based on the months. Now with the new commerce experience, we won't have that capability. The prorating refund can be done only in the first 72 hours of a new subscription purchase or renewal. Another change to the behavior of how the CSP program on the new commerce experience will work is trials. Previously, trials were required a manual conversion to a paid subscription. With this new program, any trials will auto convert to a paid subscription. So we have to make sure if you're doing a trial, you decide not to leverage that system in the future, we have to make sure that we cancel it within that 72-hour period. And then the terms. So really there was only one true term for the program, and they were annual. Now we'll have 3 different terms that you can choose from. Monthly, albeit at a premium cost, annual, and then a multi-year. So if you decide you'd like to have a multiple term for your licensing, you can do that as well. So some of the term considerations to consider. The payment options, month to month, gives you the most flexibility, but it does come at a cost premium. The seat changes cannot be decreased on any term until its renewal. So you can always add seats. That's an easy process. But decreasing seats for month to month, annual, or 3 year can only happen at the end of the term. Monthly can happen because it's a monthly term within a 30-day period approximately. With annual terms, decreasing your seats can only happen at your renewal time. Does not mean, I want to be really clear about this, does not mean that you cannot reassign seats. And that's an important part I'll get to here in just a second. Anniversary dates are an important thing to consider. Every subscription had a single anniversary date. In the legacy system, a month to month is the same. Annual, you could potentially have some subscriptions with annual on one anniversary date and the exact same license on a different subscription that you choose to be month to month. Why would you do that? And this is where there's some cool capabilities within the NCE platform. And it allows you to consider your workforce and how you want to license. Now, there's a little bit of both art and science to this, but what you're going to want to do is look at your licenses. What subscriptions do you have? How many licenses of each subscription? And consider your employees. For some of you, you might have very low employee churn. You have a static employee numbers, so it's much easier. You can really decide, okay, I want a 3-year term, and that'll give me price locking. I know if Microsoft raises the prices, I'm good for the term, that 3-year term. Some of you might say, you know what, I feel safer with my full-time employees being on an annual term. It's at the same price, but year to year, if there is a price increase, that you'll have to accommodate for that. But how do you handle if you have seasonal workers or contract workers? It gives you the most flexibility because you can choose to give those users a month-to-month contract. Now, it does have a premium, and there's a cost, but if you have seasonal employees that say are for 3 months out of the year, it doesn't make sense financially to give them an annual license. What you can do is give them month to month, and the individual months are a little bit more expensive, but because you only have to have it for 3 months, you're able to save a significant amount of money for those seasonal workers. So you want to think about that. You can have, for example, if you're a Microsoft 365 user for a business premium, you can have, say, 50 users on an annual, and then maybe you need 5 for seasonal for a certain number of months. There is a cost that you need to decide on, which is going to be the best scenario for your user community. So it's going to be an important part of deciding how you want to move forward with this. One of the key benefits to this program, and it's an important thing to consider, is that Microsoft is changing significantly how the provisioning and licenses are implemented in the portal system. Essentially, behind the scenes, that whole system is changing to a new platform, and it allows for a more mature approach to how you do licenses. These target scenarios and your term considerations are one of them. The second is, traditionally in the past, as Microsoft added promotional licenses, there were there was sometimes difficulty in transitioning those promotional licenses to quote unquote the real license. And there was also a challenge in sometimes determining, do you have the right prerequisite license to be able to order something, because some licenses require. The NCE platform addresses those problems. Now, not every license has yet been transitioned to NCE, but the majority have, and the ones that haven't will continue to rest in the legacy portal. Yes, you can have licenses in both legacy and in the NCE portal at the same time, and we can all manage that with you, but it's something that as we look at your individual licenses, we have to take that into consideration. Has Microsoft provisioned an NCE license, and how do we do that? In most cases, if your license isn't changing, you're keeping the same licenses, you're just choosing, say, an annual term, here's the number of users, the change can happen behind the scenes with no interruption. If there is a significant change to the licensing, we'll have to reassign the licenses potentially to users, and that's something that we'll know ahead of time before we make the change, and we can plan with you Doesn't mean that your users will have downtime. It just means there's some additional work that needs to be done in terms of those transitions. So this is the biggest thing to consider in terms of the NCE change. So the next thing that I'm going to give you is a little bit of a call to action. First thing that you want to do is consider, all right, each subscription that you have has a renewal date. It's when you first purchase those CSP licenses, which means all your subscriptions could have a different date. They might be the same, it depends, but they could be different. Any new subscription, as I said, purchased after March 10th will be on NCE. We have to make a choice whether those are going to be transitioned to monthly or annual commitments. And then any existing legacy subscriptions in the future when they expire will no longer auto renew. We'll have to move them to NCE. So this is your call to action in terms of looking at your license counts, your subscriptions, the dates, the number of users, and we'll work with you on figuring out what's the best scenario for your organization. So which term should you choose? I've covered this a little bit, but I want to go over it again because I think it might be the most confusing part of this. Stable workforces or expanding. Annual term is going to be your best option in terms of cost. If you have variability, whether it's seasonal or contract workers, or maybe a future decision that you might be divesting part of your business, you might want to consider for those users using monthly. Something to think about. We can transition monthly to annual if that change doesn't occur, but you want to think about what you are best looking at having flexibility and what ones you don't really need to worry about. And again, when you have the need, it's easy to add new users. It's the decrease we can't do. And I will also, again, remind you, we can reassign licenses. For example, if you have 100 licenses and you have some employees leave at the end of the month and then new ones start at the beginning of the month, you simply reassign those licenses from your pool to those new employees. We can help. It's a big change, but Sikich is there to help you with this change. This is happening to all CSP partners and all CSP companies with Microsoft, but we'll work with you to determine what's the best licensing model for you going forward. Figure out what's the most cost efficient and flexible way that you can manage your licenses. And I will say, although Microsoft is likely not to change anything significantly with the program, they are still fine-tuning some of the details, and we're trying to keep our customers up to date with what's happening and changing in the environment. I think we know, though, we can be pretty confident we know most of the important things we need to consider. As I said, some of the licenses require waiting in the legacy portal until they're available in NCE, but the majority are ready to be moved, and we can help you with that. So the important thing to do is consider your licenses. Reach out to your Microsoft or your Sikich client account manager or account executive. We can help you with that process. If you're unsure of what licenses you have, we can get that information to you. If you don't know what the best products are to choose from, what's the best terms for you, we're here to help you make some of those decisions to make sure that you're well positioned with this new platform going forward. So that's the overview. I don't know, Mike, if anyone has put any questions.
Yes, not yet, but I would like to
Okay.
alert everybody, there is the conversations message chat icon towards the top. If you have any questions, we do have time to answer them. Also wanted to let everybody know this webinar is being recorded. So everybody, this webinar, and as signed up, will receive an email with a link to the recording, most likely tomorrow. So if you do have any questions, please go ahead and enter them now. There's the first question, Ken. Do license upgrade downgrades follow the same rules that new licenses and cancellations do?
That's a great question. And the answer is that some of them do and some of them don't. In general, upgrading will allow you to add new licenses. Downgrading, you're going to probably need to wait. In most cases I can think of, you're going to need to wait until your term is over. So Much like adding new licenses, upgrading to a higher license type should be accommodated within the NCE, but downgrades, I believe, are going to be considered the same thing as decreasing, and we'll need to wait until the anniversary date is to make changes to that license. If any new information around that changes, because that's one area in particular, I believe Microsoft will look at adding some additional flexibility in the future. That's one in particular I know partners have asked for. That would be the one area I could foresee some additional changes in the future. We'll make sure people are aware of it if it does happen. Any other questions? Okay, I want to thank everybody. Oh, I do have one more. Okay, if you need to add another user to the license count of an annual renewal, can you tie the new to the old? I should have mentioned this. Thank you for asking the question, Jeffrey. So what will happen with adding another user to a subscription? Let's say you have E3 licenses. I'm going to use a scenario to help illustrate this. Say you have E3 licenses, you have 200 users, you decide you want to add 10 more. What will happen is we'll add 10 licenses to that existing subscription. The cost will be prorated to the remaining months left on that term, and they will be added to that. So they'll be co-terminated with the rest of the licenses, as long as you're choosing the same term, obviously. But if you had an annual subscription for 200 licenses of E3, you want to add 10 more, you'd now have 210 with the same anniversary date. If you were to choose, you could have them be monthly and be a separate subscription. But in most cases, I believe most of the time, people are going to look to add additional licenses to the existing subscription and have those on the same anniversary date. So they'll now have 210 instead of 200 in my example. Okay, with no other questions, I want to thank everybody for joining me today. As Mike said, there'll be a recording that will be available. We have an FAQ, a blog on our website. There'll be an email coming out with links to these resources. And if it's still confusing, and I can understand if it is, feel free to reach out to your client account manager, your Sikich account executive, maybe your VCIO, if you're one of the Sikich managed service clients. We're happy to help you navigate this. It's going to be a busy time as we transition, but we'll make sure that we give all of you the time and attention you need to help you make these decisions moving forward. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate you joining us today.